Finally, the mask is off. The pretense of altruism espoused by so many that claim to be liberal is now obsolete, and the raw quest for power is finally, shamelessly out on parade in the sickening barrage of ideology from Nottingham lovies confide. Here, at the Daily Grift, we always try to keep you up to date on our most pressing issues of our time. And we feel morally obligated to clue you in on this dangerous 4.5 minutes of SJW propaganda. The title refrain of Cancel Freedom is screamed repeatedly throughout the song by Jackson and his Truthman titled brats, in defiance of all the Western values we hold so dear. Judging from the lyrics, confides performative empathy for the feckless is a means to score political clout and YouTube clicks. And it's just so depressingly typical of the naive and destructive ideas being taught in our universities and in the corruption of our beloved institutions. The lyrics, in as far as we can decipher this cacophony of nonsense, seem to address a straw man version of who Jackson considers to be the establishment. And it's you. Yes, you. The hard-working grafter who's been sensible enough to save money for their house and retirement through the sweat of their own brow, or via smart risk-taking innovations in a dog-eat-dog world. We have our hats off to you. All the conveniences we take for granted would not be here without your tireless and laudable work. But these so-called progressives want to take that away and tax you into oblivion to fund their laughable gender studies degrees and provide for their slovenly fools who are unwilling to take any kind of personal responsibility. The likes of Confide expect the state to just hand them living on a platter with a utopian vision of a future world without borders, which, as we all know, can only result in policies for uncontrolled immigration and cultural dilution of our stoic nation. As such, Jackson's hopeless caterwauling heaps praise on cynical woke activism, while simultaneously condemning the careful, experienced minds of those who know the best governments is not the introduction of more policies, but fewer. Anyone of half a brain knows that big government is inefficient, and you cannot simply legislate society out of a problem, if indeed such problem even exists. It only serves to impact upon everybody's liberty. That is the inevitable result of lobbying with protest or direct action, not to mention the looting and ransacking considered acceptable collateral damage by these delusional pseudo-intellectuals. And yet, this excuse for music is here the regressive left, trying to drag us back in time and divide us into new camps with authoritarian rhetoric and encouraging dangerous groupthink. Have you picked your type of oppression yet? Oh, don't worry, they'll have one for you, which will conveniently grant you entitlement from the state, whether that be cash handouts, free housing, special non-urgent treatment by our crippled NHS, and consequently leeching off the productive members of society. Cancel freedom indeed. These radicals will condemn you as a racist, a homophobe, or worse if you don't play along with their specific narrative on how the world should be. Public shaming and empty virtue signalling are their only refuge, and it just goes to highlight how bankrupt their ideas are, all while enjoying the benefits that the marketplace of ideas and laissez-faire economics has given them. We need to safeguard our freedom of speech against those who would silence us. This, combined with an Orwellian attitude towards the types of words that we can use makes confide and their ilk so at odds with the values of enlightenment that everything we love is based on. They cry out for a world that could be, but we have arrived at the end of history, where the power of the individual could be fully realised. If only these young minds had set to work on starting their own businesses, rather than gawping into the YouTube abyss looking for a reason to rebel, maybe this future of our country would be looking brighter. So what can you do, sitting at home, to help quell this tide of cultural decay? Demand this hopeless degeneracy be taken off the air, off streaming platforms, and be vigilant with anyone you know who indulges this intellectual junk food. First, it's confined one day. Then neo-pronouns are next, until one day you'll wake up and find your daughter's had 4 abortions and is now a gender-fluid Antifa soldier hell-bent on overthrowing capitalism. It is your right, nay, duty, to exercise your consumer choice in a way that best defends and consolidates the work of generations past before we slide backwards into autocracy. It's sad to think that this generation will not give us the next Elon Musk. Instead, people happy to do the bare minimum in meaningless occupation while continuously lambasting those who actually put up the risk to even facilitate those jobs in the first place. Our institutions and memorials were already being ripped down from their podiums. Our cities and town squares desecrated by this impotent mob of crybabies. Some of our favourite TV shows or songs have been censored or rewritten to appease them. Some of our beloved public figures have been ousted from their platforms for daring to speak out. Before long, almost everything and everyone you love will have been cancelled for not being woke enough and replaced by a postulating, amoral rabble. Time to stand up for your country, for your family, and most of all, for freedom. If only musicians would stick to performance rather than politics.